Most non-US business owners believe that getting access to American credit as a non-US citizen, non-US resident feels too good to be true. They believe that six-figure business credit cards at 0% interest are reserved for Americans only, or cards like the Chase Sapphire Reserve are completely out of reach. And that belief is stopping them from getting access to huge financial advantages because, believe it or not, US credit has been available to non-US citizens since 1996. So in this video, I'm breaking down why US credit feels illegal when you hear about it at first, and why it's actually 100% possible for business owners like you. Now, before we get in, as a quick disclaimer, this video is for educational purposes only. We have no income guarantees over here. Of course, you're just watching a YouTube video. I would always advise you to contact qualified professionals regarding your specific situation, or you can just get in contact with our team. Without further ado, let's get straight in. So when I speak to a lot of prospects and tell them that they can access six-figure credit limits, 0% interest, and the highest redemption credit cards in the world, they ask themselves, well, why aren't all of my other friends and competitors having access to this system? This sounds too good to be true. Like, why is it that this system has not been spoken about before and more people don't have access to it specifically? So the reason why a lot of non-US business owners feel like US credit is illegal is due to the fact that it sounds too good to be true. Like, why aren't there more non-US business owners that have access to this specific kind of system, right? Why isn't that more people are doing this? And the very simple message that I want to say to non-US business owners is, if a competitor has access to better financial tools that will scale their business and will help them make a lot more money, will they really tell their competitors, or will they tell their friends about this financial advantage that they have? They would not tell their competitors. And so secretly, a lot of non-US citizens, non-US residents have access to American credit. It's actually a huge thing. I know a lot of people while I was traveling that had access to American credits that were using to get on first class flights, business class flights, pretty much getting 90% off on all of their flights because they're a non-US business owner. They're spending a lot of money on ads. Why not use the highest redemption credit cards to earn points so that they can get free flights? Or why not just use a financial institution that will unlock higher levels of funding? Why get access to banks in the UK or in other places, in Canada or in Australia, while you as a non-US business owner can take advantage of the biggest financial institutions to put your business on steroids pretty much? And so the reason why a lot of people feel like this is illegal is due to the fact that there's just no education about credit for non-residents or credit for non-citizens out there. There's barely any education. A lot of people do not talk about this. And that's exactly why I'm proud to be one of the only people that discusses this issue. Because in fact, foreign investors inject about $4 trillion annually into US assets, real estate, stocks, and businesses. And so if the US made it hard for foreigners to actually get into this system, it would actually pretty much lock a bunch of capital that is pretty much necessary for the US financial system. So every major economy allows foreign entrepreneurs to open up accounts. Like, I was in Poland about 6 months ago and I was able to open up bank accounts in Poland. I was in Dubai as well. I opened up accounts in Dubai. The question is, why wouldn't the US credit system allow you to open up accounts, allow you to do business? Because end of the day, the banks want your business, they want your capital, they want your liquidity. And if they've got those credit cards, then that's what you'll be able to access. Along with the fact that the ITIN was released in 1996, non-US citizens can get their ITIN to then get US credit cards, where it allows business to happen whether you're from the US or you're not from the US. So denying credit access would pretty much collapse the incentive to operate inside of US financial law. And even if you think about it, there are thousands, if not tens of thousands of companies that have US LLCs that are US based incorporations. And if laws pass that essentially restricts those non-US entrepreneurs to actually access their US corporation, there would be huge backlash from all the companies. So the US wants non-US business. They want business that is happening in the United States. It doesn't need to be directly inside the United States. It could be business that is happening outside the US. Main thing is that they want the business to go through their accounts into the US bank specifically. And so once you realize that US credit for non-residents is actually possible, it literally feels like like a glitch. I'm a Canadian citizen. I live in Canada, between Canada and Miami. But before that, I was actually a full-time resident in Dubai. I had my American credit cards, which I used to actually scale my company. And the crazy thing is that most of my competitors would never be able to spend as much as I did to acquire each client on an advertising basis because I had those financial advantages, those financial tools, which pretty much made me the main authority within that market that I was previously working in. And after you learn about the legality, then you learn that this system is built for leverage. This system is built for capitalism. US banks will extend you six-figure credit lines because you're a business owner that's making a decent amount of money with minimal proof of income specifically. You won't have these weird rules that I hear from so many prospects all over the world, especially people from Europe. They would ask for collateral, they would ask for a bunch of different extra proof for no reason to then give you very minimal access to funding. Another reason why this feels so illegal is the fact that you get so many redemptions per every dollar that you spend. And so a lot of people believe that points are like coupons, right? And they're not really anything substantial. But the fact is, most non-US business owners have never experienced how it is to actually earn Chase points or American Express points in the United States. I always thought that points was like coupons and never really took any time to just figure out how this travel hacking system works like. But the fact is, if you're a non-US business owner, you're spending a lot of money on ads, you should not be spending on vacations. Your vacations should technically be covered by the banks because you utilize the right credit card, the right US credit card to scale your business, right? And to actually redeem tons of different points. The other reason why this feels so illegal is the fact that capitalism is actually working in the United States. There are over 4,000 different banks in the United States versus the fact that I'm in Canada and I only know about 5 major banks, and those are really just the only banks that people bank with. Versus if you're in the United States, there are over 4,000 different banks competing with each other, trying to give their clients access to better financial tools. And that's exactly why there are better credit cards and better loan terms and better general tools for business owners, because there is so much more competition with the banks in the US versus the banks in Canada or any other country that you're in. There's just more capitalism, more competition, along with the fact that there's the US dollar that is supporting that economy in the biggest and most powerful economy in the world. It's like, no shit. Like, the US system, of course, will have better financial advantages. And the main thing here is that for the people that think it is illegal to access the US credit system, just learn about the legal process. So let me break down right now the legal basis when it comes to accessing US credit in my situation, because I'm a non-US citizen, right? And in yours as well. So for every non-US business owner that's like, what's your first step? Well, it is about getting that ITIN, because that essentially identifies you within the system. Then it is the KYC/CIP framework. The Patriot Act and the Bank Secrecy Act requires banks to verify identity, not to restrict nationality. And so even though you've got a foreign passport, an ITIN, or an EIN, you can still qualify to open up these types of accounts where basically, regardless of where you're from, these laws essentially tell the banks to give these people a chance to open up specific accounts. And then there's the fair lending laws, where essentially the ECOA prevents discrimination based on national origin or citizenship if applicant meets legitimate underwriting standards. And so as long as, of course, you meet the underwriting standards, which basically is the standards at which someone would want to lend you money, then there's no discrimination that comes along with you being from this country or you being from another country, right? So essentially, these laws are supporting you to then access this system, right? You don't have to move, you don't have to pay US taxes. Again, I have more videos about this talking about how you can legally pay no taxes as a non-US citizen, non-US resident, but let's keep going into it. There are also business structures that allow foreigners to legally open up LLCs or C Corps under state law. It would be dumb for the US government to now say, oh, well, we're not going to accept foreigners anymore because of these specific reasons. There are trillions of dollars that are being invested into the US economy from foreigners. By saying no to those foreigners, they're essentially saying, I don't want all the business that the foreigners are bringing into the US system. And so an interesting quote says that the system wasn't built for Americans, it was built for whoever can play by the rules. And so as long as you can follow by the rules, then that's all that you need in order to win in this system. And last thing, when it comes to the legality, the actual credit bureaus like Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, they build files for ITINs the same way as if you had an SSN. And so that essentially does not change the approval odds if you had an SSN or an ITIN. So really, if we summarize this video, the American financial system wants you in. They want your business. They want the money that is being transacted. And the benefit for you to actually get in there is the fact that they give you access to funding and a 0% interest terms along with the best redemptions, right? So it's like, why wouldn't you want to do that, right? Like if you're spending money on ads, if you're spending money on your business, why not use a credit card that's going to give you more returns, right? The thing is that most non-US business owners have no idea this actually even exists. And for the people that know it exists, they're not spreading the word around because this is such a strong, powerful financial tool that they can use against their competitors, right? And that's why no one talks about this, except for me, of course, because this is how I run my business. But pretty much every substantial company that you'll see in the world, they've got US banks, they've got US credit cards, they've got powerful American financial institutions that are backing them up instead of using foreign banks, foreign credit cards, and whatnot. Now, if you want to see exactly what myths are keeping most non-US business owners locked out of American credit, I've created a complete breakdown in this video over here. I'll walk through the common lies and the false beliefs that people have about this system, and I'll show you the truth behind each one. So if you're serious about learning about the American financial system even more, then click on this video, watch it, and I will see you in the next one.